Hello, hello. Welcome to Tuesday training. Let's get all these beautiful people in the house. Anna's here, Steven's here, Lori's here, Gary. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Lisa, it's nice to see you. Hello. Anna, it's nice to see your face. Steven, Lisa, Gary, Anna, Lori, did I get everybody? Hi. Hello, it's so good to see you. Let me just create that. I didn't click quite all the buttons. I did click all the buttons. I'm just going to start out by saying I know I always say that I'm happy to be here. I'm really happy to be here. I'm feeling under the weather today. Like I canceled another very early morning meeting. And all I knew that I really wanted to do today was Tuesday training because I knew I'd feel better for this hour. So pardon me for the clicking. Yeah, Anna, right? Like being with your people, talking shop, doing the things you love. It's just like a little elixir. So thank you all for showing up live so that I could spend this time with you. I appreciate you being here. Welcome to Tuesday training. We have a very exciting topic. We're going to talk about how a baker's cyst is connected to alignment. Oh, yes, we are. I've been in a conversation yet. Lori brought that in and she's like, can we do this on Tuesday training? Absolutely. So it's going to be something, even if you've never worked with a baker's cyst, the alignment part of it is gold. So we're going to dive into that today. And of course, if you have any other questions, you just let me know. You can use the chat. You can come off mute and talk. You can be on camera or off camera. Just know that you're welcome to be here in open dialogue. The more that I hear from you, the more I know what I can offer to serve you. So that matters to me a lot. And as we're getting ready for our day today, I just wanted to acknowledge that our Tuesday training for this lovely Tuesday, it's not really lovely. It's actually raining where I am, but side note. Nonetheless, it is a lovely Tuesday training hour. And this lovely Tuesday training is sponsored by the Schatz Method Mastery Program, the Practitioner Training Program. I know, Lisa, it's very exciting. This is a fantastic transformational track of training for all movement and manual practitioners who come to learn therapeutic, corrective, and orthopedic solutions for their clients. Happens every time. Every time, meaning every time someone's in the training, that's what happens. We find out that it's much simpler than we thought, but first we got to dive deep and get our anatomy solid, strategically think, and then when applied correctly, this method always remedies all kinds of stuff, including alignment and Baker's cyst issues, which we're going to talk about today. We deal with all kinds of diagnoses, not because we diagnose them, we definitely don't. But sometimes a diagnosis will really put a client and a practitioner into a freeze state. Like, oh no, there's a herniated disc, there's scoliosis, there's a knee replacement, there's holy moly, there's all kinds of crazy newness in this person's body. What do I do? Can I even do anything? And the answer is always yes. The answer is always yes when we're using our method. So I'm really excited to be training in this method. It's how I've earned a living working clinically for 31 years, and I love it when practitioners who've gone through the training call me and are like, hey, I've got this client. I did this, this, and this. I'm on the right track, right? I do like a little jazz dance. Like, yes, you are on the right track. That is awesome. And then they find that their work is complex in the face of what they're being presented with, but super simple in the solution to it. So I really love that. I'm talking a little bit longer today about mastery because it's only an annual enrollment, meaning only once a year do we get in. So we open up the doors for the training in July every year, and we run that track through a whole year. So we have a very exciting week right now where our practitioners who've been here for the year learning everything I just talked about are getting ready to graduate. And our new practitioners are coming in and getting all excited and learning the ropes. So this is always a really fun time of year, this last week of June. Hey, Cheryl, nice to see you. Rhonda, I didn't say hi when you came in. So I am talking a little bit longer today about the Mastery Program because it is only once a year. And if you're thinking, yeah, no, not me, Gina, not going to happen. Okay. And just consider that a year from now, you could be sitting in the same seat with the same questions. And what if we just talked about it? What if we just decided if this is what's next for you? So think about it. If it's even resonating a little bit, there's probably something there for you. Might not be this year, might not even be the program for you, but I will find out with you for sure. I promise you that. The good news about me running this program now for its 10th year is that I can absolutely tell now which practitioners would thrive in this program and which might not thrive in the program. I can tell which practitioners are ready and which ones need something else before they take the deep dive. And I like knowing that for you so that you get what you need and want, and we don't waste any time together. The time that we get to spend together gets to be productive. It's a deep dive. We're going. So once you're in, there's no tentative nature about it. So it matters to me that we align you in the right place. And it's good for those who are in. I love it. Okay, so all that to say, Mastery is under wraps for this year. Please let us know if you have any questions about that. The other announcement that I'll have, oh, Anna, why so sad? This should be celebratory for you, no? Yeah.
Is celebratory for sure. My learning curve has been, I can't even explain it. And I'm going to stay connected to the work because I never, ever, ever want to, for a second, lose what I've gained. And on top of the knowledge, I've just gained so much self-confidence. Yeah. And that's been a magical part of the journey, right? Mm-hmm. So, sad, happy, I get my Thursdays back, but sad because it's just, I'm in love with the work. So,
yeah. Well, I love you being in love with the work. I love the work you're doing with the work. It's all good, Anna. And I've said this before, once you're graduated, you're not done with me. We have paperwork that says we're connected for life. So don't worry about that. And you did say you're going to stay connected, and I believe you. Because there's always more to discover. We've said that, every client is a pop quiz. Every case study is a test. So
I wanted to just check in with Cheryl. Have you started, Cheryl?
I have, yeah, because it has dropped into the portal. Oh. So yes, I have started. Yep, I have. It's pretty exciting.
Pretty exciting. Good
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested to hear how we actually, I know it starts July 1st is like the kickoff, right? Mm-hmm. And July 11th is the first day that we meet, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to be clear on that. Okay.
Yeah, and that first meeting is you and me. It's when I actually get my hands on you. I'm just
actually, I meet with you on the 8th, and then the Thursdays start on the 11th. Okay.
Right. Yeah. I meant the group training is when I get my hands on you, meaning you all. But yes, we do have one-on-one, and it's part of I think it's part of the way the program really works, those one-on-ones. So you get, really concentrated time with me for me to know where you're at and how I can support you and any special, support or focus that we get to have. And I don't know of another program that does that. I think all the time now about people that I train with, like, wouldn't it just be great if I could just sit in a room with them for an hour and just like ask a bunch of questions? Like, wouldn't that be amazing? And it's just not really available. So I wanted to make sure we have that in our program. And so, yes, you're right, Cheryl. We do meet one-on-one once a quarter. And then I get my hands on you that whole week. So that week will feel different than the last week.
Cool.
Yeah. Spectacular. Okay. So that's what's happening brewing. The other thing that's brewing for those of you who've asked is the sacred sacrum training. So I'm still gathering some data about that. I thought if we picked a time, it would all magically work. It didn't. It's equal across the board.
Go figure.
There's not even and so I'm just gathering some more data to make the final decision on that. Okay. Yes, Anna.
Can you elaborate on that? This is a different course than what's in our academy?
No, it's just the first time that I'll be teaching it live since the one you have in your academy.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my pleasure. And you know this, Anna, from taking that course. It really requires a lot of foundational knowledge first to be able to use it effectively, and you can hurt someone with it. And so there was a few folks that asked in the last masterclass if they could have access to that course. And I thought about it and I was like, well, yeah, if I'm in the room with you, but not by yourself, just watching it. Because what if you don't understand something completely well and you hurt somebody? Like that doesn't work. So the meeting in the middle was, okay, well then will you teach it live, Gina? And I was like, oh, I haven't taught it live in a few years. Why not? It's a great class. It's a great course. So that's what we're brewing. So it'll just be the live version of what you already took.
Okay. I remember when we finally got to Sacred Sacrum, actually saying to you, because I found that like, the pot of gold. To me, that course was the pot of gold. And I remember saying to you, but why didn't you teach that at the beginning? And then realizing that no, you couldn't, because I wanted that knowledge, like that knowledge,
right.
Way at the beginning, but there's no way. So Cheryl and whoever's in the next thing, be patient. there's a reason to Gina's madness. Trust it. Yeah.
Yeah, Anna, do you know why was it for you that you needed to wait to have that information? Can you tell?
Yeah, because the sacrum being really the keystone, right, to foundation and to alignment, without and finally getting to really understanding the sacrum, but without the knowledge of the musculature that is tied not to just the sacrum but to everything else, there would be very little value in understanding how the sacrum works if you don't know how all of the muscles that it interfaces with work to start, and how those muscles interface with other muscles. So you just need that knowledge. I mean, how could you possibly study anything that is the keystone to something without understanding the big ball that's all around it first? And then going, okay, I understand this whole big orb. Now I can understand why this nucleus is so important.
Yeah, that's really well said. And there was a group actually, it was pod 22. So we name all of our pods by number. And there were 2 folks in that pod who came to the course live, just like we're offering for this month. And we recorded it. Great. They were there. Then they signed up for Mastery. And then later on in Mastery, they got that course again as part of the structure, the schedule, the order of things, as you're mentioning. And both of them said, wow, I thought I got something out of the course the first time, but it just opened it up completely after being in Mastery for all that time. So I'm happy to hear you put details to why. It's the construct and putting all the parts together to make real good use out of that course versus just more good information that may or may not land and synthesize. Hey, Alan, I'm glad that you're here. Welcome. There's a couple other people that came in too. I want to make sure I say hello to you. Who did I not say hello to? Len, it's great to see you. I'm glad you're here. Perry, hey, how's it going? Glad you're here. Oh, and every time I say your name, Perry, it's like your camera comes on at the command of my voice or something. It happened like that last week too. Hi, I'm glad that you're here. That's incredible. Okay, awesome. All right, my loves. So how about we go and talk about this alignment on the table? Are you guys ready for that? Are there any other questions? Did I not catch anybody who was about to ask a question? All right, let's talk about this alignment and this Baker's cyst. Lori, do you want to start us off? You had a question for me about a Baker's cyst. You did some Googling about it, and then you got that information and came to me and said, hey, could we talk this out? Do you want to give everybody the starting point?
Yeah, Baker's cyst, I didn't even know what it was. I have a client that has Baker's cyst, and he has it drained more frequently now, like every month. And I'm like, okay, he's coming to me. What the heck is this thing? So I'm researching it, and it's one of the causes is arthritis. I'm like, oh, arthritis. I know what that is, and I know it's treatable, and I know it's a misalignment of the joint or friction in the joint that's causing a misalignment, right? That's causing, in his case, inflammation, and then it's puffing up into, it's not that big, into a cyst. So that's what he came with.
Okay, and how often has he had it drained?
More frequently now, he said. He used to have it, I can't remember what he said, but now he's saying like once a month. I don't know.
Okay. Have any of you?
Yes.
Mhm.
Where is it? Where is it?
Where is it? Yeah.
On the back of his knee.
Knee.
Oh,
On the back of his left knee.
Typical. Okay.
Yeah, it's a real common spot for them. Anybody else worked with a Baker cyst? Anybody worked with a Baker cyst with a client? Okay, good. So then maybe we'll learn something new together. Awesome. So before we dive into that, you mentioned inflammation, Lori, that there's inflammation and arthritis. Did you guys recognize, as Lori's share, that there's sort of this like randomness to these symptoms that aren't quite pieced together yet? Did you guys hear that? Like there is this Baker cyst, there is this arthritis, they haven't really been tied together. It's being drained, but nobody's really answering why it needs to be drained so frequently. Did you guys catch that? Yeah. That right there is our zone of genius. That right there, being able to put those pieces together, make sense of them, connect the dots, and then take the body into a new direction, meaning the direction back to how it's designed. That's the value add right there. That's our zone of genius, body workers, right? A doctor is going to look at one thing because their role in life is to avert death. Thank God for them, right? If my heart stopped in the next couple minutes, I wouldn't want one of you all waiting for me at the other end of that ambulance ride. And I adore you all, right? It's just not what we do. So we don't want to throw doctors under the bus. Thankfully, they exist. And they don't really focus on structural comfort. They might focus on structural health because, again, we don't want the body to deteriorate. That's like sort of cousins to averting death. But when it comes to lifestyle and patterning and comfort, that's just not their zone. So if they see something that's in the way, they'll get it out of the way. And that can become like whack-a-mole, right? Like, well, this is in the way and then that's in the way. Our zone, again, is to tie the connection of those instances together in a way that makes logical sense because the body is trying to communicate something. And that something isn't a life or death issue, which is why it's not being explored thoroughly by a Western doc. It's not their role. It's our role. So I love that you guys heard that there's like these arbitrary things that are happening in this area. And even though they're persistent and keep showing up, they haven't really been addressed or connected. There's definitely a connection to them.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and the doctor just hasn't. I mean, my client is like, he thinks that this has to happen for the rest of his life.
Right, because it keeps refilling.
And it's,
right.
Right. And then he goes, it's this rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. And he's
For sure.
Yeah. So.
Lori, why did he even bring it to your attention? Was it impacting his, the work the two of you are doing?
It was during the subjective. He was rattling down through. He got a laundry list. He's a very active chap, and and he's got a laundry list of things. And he's like, "Oh, and by the way, I have this cyst," and and it came up later, and I'm like, I put the dots together on something else that we're working on. I'm like, oh, could it be? Is that like more like for him, it was a bit of a throwaway. And I'm like, oh, interesting. That's on the same leg that he's presenting with X, Y, and Z. Could they be related?
So that's how you made the connection, because you were doing your good work with him and saw that there might be something in the way. Okay.
Yeah, and he keeps bringing, like, he brought it up again. I've seen him. This is the third time that I'll see him. And he's like, oh, I'm so tired of this cyst. And I had it drained. And I was like,
right. So go ahead, Gary.
Not to mention the pain level involved with this.
Oh, yeah. He said it's really painful. You're right.
Just a bump that you see on your arm that you don't know why it's there.
Like a blister.
Yeah, and especially if this guy is active,
very
going to notice it more and create it more often because he is active.
Right.
The way he is, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And in his knee, right? Even if he wasn't active, he walks to the bathroom. That would be enough to irritate that area, right? What were you going to say, Lori?
I mean, well, it's just interesting as I researched it and put it together. I'm like, what were you saying, Gary, about it being created? I'm like, oh, it is created, but what's creating it?
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, can I resolve? Yeah, I know, we're all nodding. And I'm like, oh, can I resolve that? I'm like, oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So anyway, cliffhanger a little bit.
Right. Right, exactly. And Anna, to your question, the subjective part, we learned this in the mastery program. That subjective intake is gold.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes what practitioners will do is they'll listen to a couple things from their client. They have a couple different things that they then use to, with love, blame the client's pain instead of look at those things that are mentioned and synthesize the connection between them. And that's what we do. There's nothing that's superfluous that a client tells you. Our job is to figure out why it was mentioned, the connection between them, and what to do about it. And we don't always have all of those steps. So that's a big piece of it. So you did exactly that, Lori, where you're like, okay, I'm listening. There's a reason he brought this up. And it's not just an arbitrary cyst. We could do the same thing that the doctor did. Oh, it's just a cyst. It fills up. As long as he drains it, he's fine. But in the window in between, when it's filling, he's not comfortable. Right? And we could leave it there. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because again, it's not for the doctor to solve. It's for us to solve. For those of you who are doing orthopedic work and, you know, osteotype stuff, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so do you guys know the connection between inflammation and arthritis? It's a huge connection. Huge connection. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking about the misalignments in the body.
Okay.
I've been seeing that often. It's like you have arthritis here, maybe you're overusing certain parts of your body. So
So that would cause inflammation, or that would cause arthritis, Perry?
Arthritis. And
okay, actually, we know that to be in reverse, right? And we learned that from Gil Headley. He proved it to us with his cadaver studies, that there's no evidence in cadavers of overuse. It's underuse that shows up. However, what I think I'm hearing you say is being used out of alignment is now a problem. That's like driving a car on a bent frame.
Yeah,
for sure. Yep. Gary, were you going to say something as well?
Whoa, you just kind of threw me a curve with the underuse versus overuse.
Yeah.
I mean, what I was just going to say was the inflammation is the root cause of a lot of chronic disease, and the arthritis is just the name applied to it because we got to come up with a diagnosis.
Almost. No, almost. And so then the question then would be, well, then what's causing the inflammation?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it's true that that inflammation is the root of all diseases, so is this like a scary monster in the closet and we don't know when it's going to jump out? We just might or might not get inflammation. We got to go another step, right? What's causing the inflammation? And Perry, you gave us a piece of that. Gary, you gave us a piece of that. We're going to put the pieces together. When you're driving a car on a bent frame, is it true that the wheels and the wheel bearings will wear out? Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
From friction, exactly.
Yeah.
So the friction from a misaligned structural frame, the friction causes the wearing out. The wearing out then responds by creating a bubble of protection, aka inflammation. I'm making this super simplified, guys. A bubble of protection, think about it like a blister, will protect where there's rubbing, right? That inflammation is going to stay there as long as those two bones are misaligned because there's friction. It's going to create a protective bubble because there's friction. The longer that protective bubble, the body's inflammation, which is needed, the longer that inflammation is present at joint structures, the more degradation it does at that joint structure because it's acidic. So as soon as inflammation hangs out at a joint for a long period of time, that acidic relationship between the inflammation and the joint structures creates a degradation, which then increases the arthritis, which then increases the inflammation. And now you're in a catch-22. Make sense? You guys get it?
Is
Okay.
is the arthritis a deposit of something, like a reaction to that acidic space? You know, is it like I don't know.
No, think about it like a wearing down. Think about it like the picture that comes to mind for me is like in the foundation of a house when it's been hit by the elements, like seawater over and over again, it just sort of crumbles a little bit. The house is still standing, the knee joint is still there, but the structures that made up that house, that made up that knee, are looser, and some pieces might be like shackled off.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking arthritis, it seems like there's like some sediment or something in a joint with arthritis.
It's more about a change in the structure. So
like
whether
a breakdown?
like a breakdown. Yeah. So what you're talking about more is like what a spur would be. Like a bone spur would be like coral in the ocean, pieces added onto the bones that are kind of hanging on, that there's no room for them. That assured clear distance was not established in the original design. Those are more like bone spurs.
But that's also an inflammation of the body's reaction for protection. The
What
bone,
is a
the bone spur.
It's the bones reaction to friction.
Yeah.
Or it's also diet related. The bone spurs are very diet related, which arthritis might be as well. It might not be. You know, I mean, it's different dietary things, by the way, but I don't want to get us too far off that track. I can put that hat on pretty quickly, interestingly enough, because I do have training in that as well and certified in other places. But just from the anatomy itself, if the bone spur is there or the arthritis and inflammation are present, we know that's not how we came. So something that we're doing with this design is contributing to those three things that have already been mentioned. More than, for me, you guys do what you want to do, more than getting deep down into understanding what is the actual chemical reaction in arthritis, what is actually happening, what size spur matters, rather than diving down those deep rabbit holes, which I have done in the past. What I've come to learn is that I know that those are reactions to something that I'm doing physically. I don't really need to know the diagnosis in depth. I need to know that it's telling me something that's being done mechanically needs to be addressed. That's where I can add the most value. If I know all the chemical components of arthritis, inflammation, and spurs, that makes me very smart, and it doesn't do anything for the client in getting rid of it. But what does do something for the client in getting rid of it is understanding how it got there to begin with. So I'm still on the functional anatomy. Yeah, Anna.
So Gina, without going down the rabbit hole, because that's exactly what I was going to ask you, like you read minds, what exactly is inflammation? Is it, you know, does, obviously there's swelling, so does the tissue, like, what is that inflammation, you know, that stretches the tissue? That's, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, short answer, light surface, is that it's mostly a response of the immune system and white blood cells to go in and add a layer of protection, like support. Like think about your immune system supports things when they're down and sort of a little low. So those cells collect in an area where they're needed. And the collection of them is the pocket of fluid that we call inflammation. Good, got it? Okay. And the liquid is acidic. So the acidity, so again, inflammation's not bad. Inflammation's a freaking miracle. You mean I came with the ability to generate inflammation on the spot without me having to special order or wait for it to be delivered? My body's just ready at the ready to create inflammation whenever I get myself into a pickle. That's miraculous. So we don't want to be negative Nancy about inflammation. We just want to understand how much of it's needed and how did it get there. right? Is a little bit of inflammation needed? Sure. It's just like a blister. I mean, a blister's not a terrible thing when you get one on your foot. They hurt, but not as bad as if that tissue was destroyed, that the blister's there protecting from the rubbing, right? So, it's not, the blister's not the bad thing. It's the shoes that cause the blister that you want to look at, not the blister. Blister's miracle. Okay,
Yeah,
Cheryl,
I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Gary.
Just distinguishing between acute inflammation and chronic inflammation, which is basically what you just said. If somebody says this is acute, it's a immediate reaction to the brain's in the immune system to heal whatever that is. And then that inflammation is supposed to go away when the healing is done.
Correct.
But mostly what we're looking at as therapists is the chronicity of that constantly coming back and back and again. So
yeah, and the relationship between acute and chronic, the cycle between those two, the repetitiveness of chronic becoming acute and then acute spurring into chronic is a big deal. We talk about that in our mastery program as well. It's a little bit of a longer conversation than I want to spend today. But understanding that pattern and when one turns into the other and why is part of our knowing about what to do about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I have a pair of shoes and I'm going to use blister for inflammation just because it's easier for us to understand. Okay, because we've all seen them. We've probably popped them when we shouldn't. We waited for them. We peeled off the dead skin. I know it's gross, but that's just what it is. We can see that. We can't actually see the inflammation inside the knee joint unless the knee swells, and then all we really see is the skin, right? So I'm using the blister as an example because we have a tangible, visible connection to it. When I have a blister that's formed on my foot from ill-sized shoes, what I want to look at is how did that shoe and that foot relate to each other to create that blister in the first place? Not that the blister needs to go away and it stopped me from walking. I feel like I was going to say something else and I might have lost my thread there. What did you say, Gary? Right, acute and chronic, right? Okay. So if I go back to wearing those shoes and I get another blister, now that area where that blister has revisited is going to make changes to my skin. It's just going to look different over time because it's the same over and over. Acute that then creates a response, acute that then creates the response, which is different than chronic, which is constant and ever present. When it comes to inflammation in a joint, we can't see it as clearly as a blister. The blister's present, the blister goes away. The blister's present, the blister goes away. When there's inflammation inside a joint, we already said we can't see it. How do we know if there's still inflammation there or not? We have to assume that if it was there once, it was created because of something else that the body did by way of movement. And we need to figure out what that is and repattern it. Just have to do that. Cheryl, did you have a question also? Oh, Lori?
Yeah, so for this Baker cyst, is it going from chronic and then it blows up into acute? Is it going back and forth? Could we say it like that? Like, because you were saying that that's stressful in the nervous system.
It is stressful in the nervous system. I think more importantly for this particular guy is why is it persisting? What was the year that he first tell everybody, what was the year that he first got a Baker cyst?
What did he say, 2018? Let me double check. I think it's 18. Fall of 2018.
6 years of going and getting a cyst drained because of inflammation. 6 years.
Whoa.
Of inflammation at a knee joint, creating more arthritis that's already been diagnosed. 6 years. Okay, that's stressful on the nervous system. It's stressful on my nervous system. Like, what the freak? Get this guy some help. Okay, so let's get into that. How would we help him? So what have we established? We know that the cyst, AKA inflammation, AKA blisters, I'm using them all together, the protective bubble that the body creates, we've established has come from some sort of friction in the area. So what do you think the friction is in what area, Lori?
What is the friction and in what area?
Yeah, where's his cyst?
On the back of, yeah, I thought it was like, oh Jesus,
we're going with what we know. We're going with what
it's on the back, it's on the back of his left knee.
Great. And what makes up the knee? What bones?
The tibia and the femur.
Great. So the femur and the tibia make up the knee, and the cyst is caused by friction between those two or friction from something else?
I'm going to go with those two because those are
Of course. Yeah.
those are the two that
Yep.
the main players.
And every once, there was one time I had a client with a Baker cyst, and I said the same thing. It was these two bones, and they went back to, I think it was their doctor. I think it was their doctor they went back to, and the doctor's like, well, actually, it's in the, muscle that attaches to those two bones. Okay. Well, I know about lever system, and if the bones aren't aligned, the muscles that connect to them will be problematic. Okay. Still have to look at the two bones, right? And again, I sound a little saucy right now. That's our zone because we know that, right? We don't want to get so ocular about what we're looking at that we miss the big picture, because the body is connected. All the parts, there's not one part of the body that's an island. It just doesn't work like that. So for practitioners who do see things in that way, it would be harder for them to see things the way we see them, for the same reason that it would be true in reverse. So I'm still looking at the relationship between the tibia and the femur, okay? And on the back, the tibia and the femur. Something here is creating enough friction repeatedly for 6 years that there's a cyst developing in this area. So what do you guys think it is? It's turning more like into group training than it is Tuesday training. Every week, I'm like putting y'all on the hot seat. Do you like it? Keep coming back. Go ahead, Perry.
We would always think something maybe going on with the hips or
Say more.
the pelvic region. Is there any misalignment going on?
Say more. I like where you're headed. Say something more.
More.
Do you have anything more? Perry, did you freeze? No, you're there.
He's there.
Okay. So you're thinking something in the hip?
Well, hip to the whole pelvic region,
Mm-hmm.
If it's something going on the right side that is higher or lower, or if it's the left side that, is lower. So it's being, the cyst is a protective.
Yeah, absolutely.
A strong indicator to pain response, something is wrong.
Yep. And how did you get from, I love it. How did you get from knee to pelvis? Walk us through the trail.
Well, I've been always looking at either above or below.
Okay, perfect.
So the head of the femur makes up the hip.
Exactly. The head of the femur makes up one half of the hip joint, and the other end of the femur makes up half the knee. So you got to follow the line, right? And we're only going up right now. We're going to go down in a minute too. Not only is it potentially at the hip, but to your point, Perry, we know that the appendicular skeleton, we talked about this for the last couple of weeks, the appendicular skeleton is actually the innominate or the ox coxa, whatever you're calling it. Cool kids these days call it ox coxa. So this bone right here, right? So if this bone is out of alignment, it's the other half of the hip joint. This is one half, this is the other half, ox coxa on one side, femur on the other. If there's a misalignment here, it would absolutely create a misalignment down here. How could it not? It's the same bone. So then the question is, well, how did this bone get out of alignment? What do you think?
Muscles move bones.
Say more than that. Muscles move bone, cool. How do you think this bone got out of alignment?
Didn't Lori say that he is really, really active?
Yes.
And so in his activities, what are the chances that he is always moving in perfect alignment? 0.
Okay.
Likely. And so for sure, when the body is going to do exactly what you ask it to do, even if it means it's going to engage wrong muscles. And if it engages wrong muscles, they're going to pull, on that innominate. It could be the QL that's likely doing that. I mean, it could be the glute max. It could just be so many muscles that are around there.
Right. And we go from I know where you're going, Anna, because I just called Lori on this earlier too. Yeah. We always go from a measurement. So we have measurements in our method. We always go from a bony landmark measurement to the muscle that caused it. And true. And still thinking about the structure though, how the bones relate to each other on their alignment, their articulation, where they meet, the joints that touch each other. When this bone is out of alignment, it rarely happens by itself. Mm. And we know that in the Schatz method, it's sacrum centric. So we're always going to look at what's happening in the sacrum. Now, what we aren't going to cover today are the other measurements that this client had, but we know that there's something going on in his sacrum because he had 2 measurements in his sacrum and he had matching measurements in his thoracic. And we know these 2 curves are connected. So now we're looking at this cyst in the knee that actually could be here and here. Or we could just keep draining the cyst behind the knee. Mm-hmm. See how that works? It's wasted time. Now, if we go from the femur, or if we go from the knee down, which is just as probable if it's a knee issue, it's half tibia, half femur, right? If we go from the knee down, we have the top of the tibia here, the bottom of the tibia, here at the top of the ankle, and we have the alignment of the foot on the ground and how the foot hits the ground. Do you think that even if he wasn't active, do you think that if the way his foot was hitting the ground wasn't level, it's already doing it? Look what his tibia is doing. Look what Mer's tibia is doing as I'm moving my foot, my foot, right? As I'm not landing on the ground level, it is creating an effect in the tibia. Now, I want to be really thoughtful here. We're not meant to walk on flat surfaces without any movement in our feet. In fact, quite the opposite. There's a boatload of bones and muscles in our feet, and they are designed to be all terrain. They're actually designed to be all terrain. That's why, have you guys ever gone on vacation and walked the beach? Mm-hmm. And just walking, you're like, whoa, I got a whole lot of exercise. And you think, oh my gosh, it must be the sun. Actually, it's because you're using a lot more muscles too. Your feet are making forms around that sand that they don't make when they're shoved inside shoes and stomping around on concrete or wood floors in your house. We're meant to have all-terrain feet. So it's not that the movement in the foot is creating an imbalance in the tibia and the alignment at the knee joint. It's whatever's happening with that foot while it's shoved in a shoe and pounding on concrete, like when he's running. That's the issue. It's that it doesn't have as much movement available. It's been made restrictive and out of alignment or out of proper function. The other thing that we know, I'm just going to shortcut you guys here just in the interest of time. The other thing that we have identified in our method and have tons of proof and evidence around is that whatever's happening under the mound of the big toe has a direct line effect at the sacrum. And we already said that we know with this chap that his sacrum and thoracic need addressing. But the cyst and the pain is at his knee. So we really do get to look at him now from the big toe mound all the way up to his thoracic measurements and address them all and see which one started which one caused the other. It's always a domino effect. Which one is compensating for something that the other guy hasn't done. And then keeping in mind, it's 6 years of patterning, 6 years of mileage on those feet hitting the ground. Mm-hmm. The other thing I'll share about the feet and gait, we do have several steps in gait that we go over. There's not a chance I could do that for you in 15 minutes because it takes us a really long time to go over them, but just trust me that there's a dozen steps of gait. And what we know about that is that depending on how the foot hits the ground and how much contact the soft tissue in the feet are making by design, and if it's not working by design, then you get to intervene and create a correction around that as a practitioner. But the way the feet hit the ground, if it's optimal, there's a certain amount of absorption that happens through the center of the foot, through the arch, that most of the musculature in the feet is meant to absorb. Meant to. Can't do that if the foot's not hitting the ground in an aligned way, though. Can do it less if the foot is aligned, but shoved in shoes and not mechanically full, because it's not using the whole lever system. Again, we learned that at the lever system this past spring. So the way the steps of gait are involved, as referring to this guy that's in discovery at the moment, if this was aligned and the foot was hitting the ground with full function, most of the pressure from the foot hitting the ground with that kind of impact through walking, or definitely through running, is meant to be absorbed through the arch of the foot and the muscles in the foot. Then whatever is residual goes up into the next joint. Whatever's residual from there goes into the next joint. And by the time it hits the pelvis, it should be very little impact going into the sacrum from the ground. But if that foot hitting the ground, the first step of this whole chain that I just outlined very quickly, I get it. If that first impact of the foot hitting the ground is off in any way, it's going to impact the sacrum, because that's where the stop gaps are. It's meant to be mostly in the foot, and then in the ankle, and a little bit in the knee, right? And the muscles that go up from there. The calves are also designed to do a lot of absorbing from the earth and the pounding that our body weight down on the earth. So if the feet aren't aligned and not mechanically working, if they're not absorbing and the calves don't absorb it, it will land in the knee and then affect the sacrum, which then comes back down to the knee. And now you're in that loop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where it's just a cyst that he's getting drained once a month. There's just a lot of parts to consider and synthesize which one is the chicken and which one is the egg, right? And so it's a little bit of trial and error. I can't tell you what it is with this guy. I'm not even in the room with him. But I know you can figure it out, Lori, because you have the method to back you up. So the way you work it out is by process of elimination and listening to the body and let it tell you what's up. But before you ask the body to give you any answers, it's going to give you all kinds of symptoms until it's aligned. So you take those measurements, which I'm talking to you, Lori, you take the measurements, the Schatz method measurements, address them and clear them. If you don't clear the measurements first, anything else you do to the muscles isn't going to really land, because the muscles can't act fully if there's misalignments in the structure. We know that from that master class. Seems like that little master class was just like, just 2 hours of chit chat. But that's really like this big foundation of, if you're working with misalignments in the body, that really matters. The way the muscles are engaging or not engaging, probable cause of a muscle and what I should address or shouldn't address. Without the alignment, those muscles aren't going to show up fully, which on its own can create a compensatory pattern. If I'm trying to do something mechanically that I'm designed to do with these two muscles, way slimmed down, guys. If I'm trying to do this mechanical thing that's designed to be done with these two muscles, and one or both of those two muscles is not fully doing its job to contract, but I'm still creating the mechanical action, something else jumped in to help.
Right.
And that's not reciprocal inhibition. That's something different. Reciprocal inhibition happens when the body is aligned. I'm talking about when it's not aligned. It's not just an easy breezy reciprocal inhibition filler. Sometimes it is, but rarely. And the reason we know it's not in this case is because he wouldn't be in pain. He wouldn't be in pain, and he wouldn't be developing symptoms of his body telling us this alignment issue is an issue. Okay. How's that, Lori? Does that support you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for bringing us Baker's cysts. That's not a topic I thought we would be covering, but I love it. Okay, what questions do you guys have? Anybody have any questions that I can answer for you, either on this or any other client work that you've got going on? Yeah, looking like you're shell-shocked right now. What's that about? What's going on?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
So I've got a client who perpetually ends up with pain at the back of the knee that inhibits him from being able to actually flex to any kind of degree. And I've done, it's like Groundhog Day. So we go through the method, and he can bend that knee. He is absolutely like free of pain. He's got that movement. What works really well with him is knee traction. Really, really well.
Tracking.
It's almost immediate. And then 2 days later, I check in and it's returned.
Okay, so I'm glad to hear that the method works for your client. We love that it's working. So what do you know, Anna, about the 72-hour window after applying the method? What do you know about that window?
About the 72-hour window after applying the method? Don't do anything else within that time frame.
What else? Okay.
I can't remember.
Okay. In the 72-hour windows after applying the method, what should happen is the body goes through an adjustment. And sometimes it could feel a little better. Sometimes it could feel a little cranky. But after the 72-hour window, that tells you whether the method worked, meaning you know it worked because he left. But if you were thorough in what you offered in that method session.
Right. I remember what you said. So I haven't nailed it. I mean, I know I haven't nailed it because it keeps coming back. So I'm very
so
clear
what you're doing, what you're doing is working, and there's a piece there that of the method that you still get to add. And again, I'm not in the room with him. I don't know, but it seems like what we just talked about with Lori's client could apply here, right? If it's the back of the knee that's always in pain, he doesn't have a cyst. And again, this is, you guys, even what I'm doing right now, don't do this. Like, don't make one client's symptoms and treatment plan match another. It doesn't work like that. Really, it doesn't work like that. But Anna, whatever was coming up for you with your client, look at the measurements, see if you took care of the measurements fully before he left, and then what caused those measurements. And I don't mean probable cause only. Yes, of course, you get to address probable cause, but what caused those muscles who caused the measurements to react in the first place? There's probably something there that you haven't caught yet with your client.
And I haven't, and I haven't. So I haven't, and I stay in the place that I just haven't. I've got the knowledge. I just don't have the, I haven't been applying it enough to figure it out, because I cannot get rid of his or eliminate at the end of the session his sacral measurement. So I'm
without balancing the sacrum, he's always going to have pain.
We balance. I think I'm balancing the sacrum. It's not balancing. I think I'm doing what's necessary to balance the sacrum, but it's not balancing.
So you mean when he leaves your session, his sacrum still has measurements in it?
Yep.
Okay, then you're right. You didn't balance it. Balance means there's no measurements.
I know.
So dig. What's causing the measurement? Everything else you do in your session before balancing that sacrum might be very hard on their body and a waste of your time. If that sacrum's not balanced, if that keystone's not aligned, it literally affects everything.
Yeah.
So find out what's causing those sacral measurements, whichever ones you found. Find out what's causing it. Look wider, look deeper, look taller, look from a different view. Look back through your subjective notes, see what's there.
Okay.
And you're right. It does take a minute, Anna. You do have the method. That's why you know he feels better at the end. You do have it. And it takes some practice to synthesize it. That's okay.
Yeah.
He's getting out of pain at least a little. That's why he's coming for a little bit of time. That's why he's coming back, because he knows you can get the answer.
Okay.
You're hovering right at the answer. He knows that. Smart guy.
Yeah, well,
Anna, there's also a Tuesday training. We went over knees, like I think it was like a broad sweep of knees. When was that? Like a month ago? Does anybody remember? I know we did knees. Like that might support you also. There might be something in there.
Yeah, but I'm absolutely certain that it's not. We talk about.
Agree, it's not, but it might
be the shoulder or the knee, but it's not.
It's his sacrum.
Right.
If his sacrum's not aligned at the end of the session, you didn't finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it could be his knee pain, his ankle pain, his elbow pain, his hip pain. If the sacrum's not aligned, it can create all of that.
Yeah.
You got to align that sacrum.
Yeah.
Find out why it's not aligning. What else do you get to add in your session to align that sacrum?
Yeah.
Okay. And talk to your pod too.
I will. And the other part that I want to add, in fact, my client today said, your teacher probably tells you to have lots of patience with your clients, who never do their homework. And I'm like, well, we definitely speak to the nervous system, and only 20 to 30% is going to be absorbed of what we do here. So, patience and practice. And they don't do their homework.
Okay, then you haven't enrolled them in why?
You keep saying that. And
yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
and
guys.
I trust in what you're saying. I think it must be, I haven't nailed messaging the way you have, not even close. And I think it must be the way that I message, because I say the right things, but it must be the way that I message it.
Well, look, there's always development in all the things that we do, right? Like, we don't become experts in 12 months flat. You gotta,
right,
put in the detailed work. And this is what I'll say. If any of us has a treatment plan that is 80% effective and not 100% effective, and we're not clear on the remaining 20%, that means that whatever we're offering for homework is probably only 80% effective too.
Mm.
And they can tell. Their higher knowing knows. They're not going to waste their time. Why would they waste their own time when they're the ones that are uncomfortable?
Mm.
If you give somebody clarity about what's causing their pain, and you give them the experience in the treatment setting with you of having it been remedied, and you give them homework related to whatever you just did that you want them to use to recreate and reestablish what's been done, they'll know. But if you're just arbitrarily giving them some stuff to do because you think they need it in their body, but it's not tied to the actual pain that they came to you with, you're just giving them busy work, and they know that. It's just general, just in general. So I think, Anna, your breakthrough with this client is to find out what's causing his sacrum from balancing. There's more for you to do for him there. And when you find that opening, it's going to open up a whole lot of awareness about what you're navigating with him. And then the both of you will have a lot of clarity. That's my thought on it, for sure.
Yeah, you're right. He just so loves the knee tracking and the ankle tracking and some of the other work that we do, the sacral block, the therapy balls, that I think I'm falling into just giving him exactly what it is that he loves. And I have to re-examine all this and be the leader.
Yeah, you get to be the authority in the treatment setting. And look, he might love it, but you know what he's going to love more? Being out of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Anna, you're kind of doing the same thing, and I get it. You're draining the cyst every month or every week for him. And then you know what I mean? And then it's coming back. And then you drain the cyst and you're like, I did it. You feel great. And then it comes back. So
you're right. That's a great analogy, Lori. That's exactly what I'm doing. So thank you for bringing this up, because I'm going to remember that.
Are we draining the cyst each month or what?
Draining the cyst.
Yeah. And the thing about it, Anna, is that you do have the tools to solve it. Right. If I thought that you didn't have enough information or that this method was missing, I wouldn't have trained. Honestly, I know that this method can solve it, and you have the method.
Yeah.
So you just got to put a couple more pieces together and then take appropriate action, and you'll get it.
Okay.
Yeah. And bring it back, ask your pod.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for bringing it up. Okay, my babes, an hour goes by fast. Thanks for keeping me company on a gray day for me. I feel sunnier already from having spent the time with you. Did you guys get some value from today?
Yeah, that was great.
Something good to take away and apply? Okay, perfect. I look forward to, go ahead, Perry. We're going to say something?
Yeah, I won't be here next week because I got an osteopath appointment, but this has been excellent. It's just, you guys are looking at more details, what could be causing a problem. It's not just the muscles. It's like, what's the alignment? Getting more to the itty gritty of what's causing the problem and trying to get out of it. And I have a system. I do corrective exercise with my clients. I'm trying to do more of it. And I will bring more of that system out when I work with my osteopath starting later in the year, where we do measurements and give them corrective exercises according to what their measurements were. And I hope to do that later on in the year, starting that. I had one client, I did give a sequence of corrective exercises, and she was having pelvic problem because she was pregnant and then there was weakness. So she stopped seeing her physio and started doing these. And it was a big difference in her pelvic alignment. So I want to know more, of course, more details on how to eliminating getting the 100% as opposed to just 80.
Okay.
Gary, it's called the Schatz method, and registration is open right now. So
yeah.
I invite you in. Okay.
Yeah, Perry, you're welcome to come. I can tell from the way you speak that it would be worth it to have a conversation with you to see if this is the right program for you.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for those details, I feel you. That was exactly the thought that I had. Like, I'm getting folks 80 to 85% better, and I'm an A+. I like to win 100%. I want 100%. What am I missing? What am I missing? And that was the development moments of the method, the inception of it. So yeah, if you're looking for more detail and you think we have it, absolutely, let's talk for sure. Hey, Lori, thanks.
I see the link. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And Laura, I see your chat note in here too. I'm glad you enjoyed and that you got something out of it. That's perfect. Any other questions? Any other questions before we go for today? Okay, my friends, thank you so much for being here and for your attention, for contributing to this rich conversation as you do each week. It's been a pleasure to be in service to you for this hour. I look forward to seeing you guys. You're welcome, Lisa. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Perry, thanks for letting us know you're not going to be here. I think that's adorable that you actually, it's like not mandatory that you're here and you're just still letting us know you're not going to be here. How responsible and connected. That's so sweet for you to say that. But even though you're not going to be here next week, you and I can still connect if that serves you, if you want to do that.
All right, great.
And in the meantime, thank you all for the incredible work you do in the world. The world needs us. Bye, Alan. Thank you for your comment.